You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey, Days of Our Lives fans. So Jeremy Horton is in Salem once again, and despite being a bit psycho, he is looking mighty fine. But Steve Johnson wants his daughter's ex investigated by FBI guy Rafe Hernandez because he's just so sketchy and it's not clear if he is actually reformed. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt. We have a lot to talk about. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Let's dive into whether Jeremy is really a new man or the same old bad guy from before who terrorized Stephanie Johnson. So one good sign is that Jeremy's no longer a pilot smuggling drugs and people and other things. As he told Stephanie, he wanted to change. He wanted to clean up his act. So he turned himself in. He cut some sort of deal. He got therapy. And now apparently he's all reformed. And Jeremy's even allowed to work with children. He is going to be Thomas and Rachel's 5th grade teacher, a long-term substitute. And it seems not everybody in Salem knows all about his shady past because Julie Williams is rolling out the red carpet for Jeremy. At the same time, she's being super judgy about Cat Greene. And Jennifer Horton is also happy to see Jeremy while similarly judging Cat. Maybe Stephanie should tell Jen and Julie exactly the kind of man that Jeremy is to write them a reality check. But no doubt there are mixed reviews on who exactly Jeremy Horton is and what kind of man he is. So Stephanie was absolutely terrified to see her toxic ex-boyfriend Jeremy at her door. And I mean, who can blame Stephanie? If you remember, Jeremy held her head underwater in a hot tub when he got mad at Stephanie years and years ago. So, of course, Kayla and Steve know that Jeremy terrorized Stephanie, but even they don't know the full extent of how bad it was with Jeremy. But of course, Steve and Kayla are very concerned to hear that Jeremy's back in town because what they do know is terrible. So already, Steve has asked his good friend, Rafe Hernandez, to look into Jeremy on the down low. And obviously, Steve's a private investigator, but he is handling all his cases solo because he lost John Black. Plus, Rafe's got special resources since he's an FBI agent. And since Brady Black has been filling his dad John's shoes lately and investigating things like Tate and Sophia and the adoption, you never know. Maybe Brady will stick with investigating and he'll help Steve and Rafe dig up some dirt on Jeremy Horton. The fact is, Basic Black could be on the chopping block now that Tony is suing Xander and Phillip to try and get not only DiMera, but Tony also plans to snatch Titan. So maybe Brady needs a backup job. He needs to find a new trade. I would absolutely love to see him working alongside Steve at Black Patch. And Brady may have more time soon because he just hit a dead end when he found out that Tesoro was not a DNA match for Tate. Right now, Steve would probably tell you that Brady is actually turning out to be one heck of a good investigator, like he just inherited those skills from his late father, John. And even if Brady doesn't dig in and help out, Steve and Rafe are about to do a deep dive into Jeremy and what he's been up to over the past, 18 years? After pulling the hot tub stunt with Stephanie, he left, I believe, in 2007. Obviously, Steve knows that Jeremy was nothing but trouble when he dated Stephanie, but he insists he's changed. We saw that Jeremy went to see Stephanie over at the apartment, and he was talking about making amends for how he treated her in the past, and he did give a legit apology, but she seems so scared of Jeremy. She was even reluctant to let him in, but then Stephanie finally relented, invited him in, accepted the peace offering of pretty pink flowers that he brought, and then it kind of got weird pretty fast because Stephanie was mortified when Jeremy congratulated her on the success of One Stormy Night. he had recognized the Mile High Club details in one of those steamy chapters. And obviously, Stephanie wrote about them getting frisky in midair when he was a pilot and she was a flight attendant. So even though she denied it to Jeremy at first, he was very clear that he knew Stephanie was Anastasia Sands. So she must have just written everything like her own life, which seems insane when you're writing something that scandalous to write these very specific little personal details into it, you know? That was the part of the book that Stephanie asked Alex Kiriakis to make sure was removed, those passages, before it published. But he dropped the ball, and that's why Jeremy was at their door peddling his I'm a New Man story. So right now, Steve doesn't know that his little sweetness, Stephanie, wrote that dirty, dirty book that's being passed around Salem, but her mom, Kayla, does. And she is equally concerned about Jeremy being back in Salem and whether he is a danger to her daughter, Stephanie. And of course, Steve asked Rafe to discreetly use his federal resources to look into Jeremy's past. So while Rafe is looking into Jeremy, we could see Steve calling on Brady to keep his eyes open and his ear to the ground about Rachel's new teacher, Mr. Horton. You know, as a parent, Brady will be seeing Jeremy often, so he's actually a good asset to have in this project. And we know right now Rachel's a ticking time bomb ever since her mom, Kristen, went to prison for EJ's shooting. And at some point, Rachel's going to remember she pulled the trigger. So hopefully Brady is staying close, keeping an eye, and that will also let him keep an eye on Jeremy. And of course, the Salem Elementary School hopefully did its due diligence and ran a background check on Jeremy before hiring him as a sub. But Rafe could still find something disturbing in that man's past that maybe the school missed. I'm also interested to see how Jeremy's going to handle it when Rachel starts to spiral and starts acting out soon. We do know that Alice Halsey is exiting soon. She left Days to film the new Little House on the Prairie reboot. So the fact is, with Jeremy Horton, there's a pile of history that is open to being created because of how long he was gone out of Salem. He went straight to Stephanie, though, to say he wants to make amends, but then got creepy right away talking about the dirty book that she wrote, and Jeremy made clear that he had read every page of. And Stephanie told him she is seeing somebody, and she had already alerted Alex to the toxic past that she and Jeremy shared. So hopefully Alex is going to be on high alert to protect Stephanie, along with Steve, hopefully along with Rafe and others. But we'll have to wait and see if there's something sinister in Jeremy's more recent past that everybody really, really needs to know. Something that might indicate whether or not Jeremy is going to wreak havoc on Stephanie's life once again now that he's back in town.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.